So today we are going to talk about scope of variables as part of Java Basics is part 1.3. So first part of Java is Java OCA exam is Java Basics, as we have discussed, and we have already uploaded 2 videos. You can check Java class structure, and that's the first YouTube video. Second YouTube video is main method. Today we are going to talk about scope and lifetime, variable scopes, local, instance, and static. So what is a scope? What exactly is a scope, right? You can think of it like a room in a house. So every pair of curly braces in Java creates a room. A variable that is declared inside that curly braces or inside that room can only be seen inside that room. The moment you step outside, that particular variable is not visible. That after that closing brace, that variable is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. You can't use it, you cannot print it, you can't do anything with it. The compiler will stop you. So Java has multiple levels of these rooms. A method is a room, a variable declared inside a method stays in that method. And an if block or a for loop is a smaller room inside a method. Variables declared there also die when the if block ends, right? So you have a method, within that you have a if block, you have declared a local variable there. So it's not visible after the if block. So a for loop is also a room. The loop variable I, if you declare inside it, it dies the moment the loop is over. So that's what is your scope, right? So, and even a plain curly braces block with no if or for is a room. You can write just curly braces and that creates a scope. So we have to remember that the rule is always the same. The variable lives from its declaration line until the closing of the curly braces of the block where it was declared, not one line more. So let's move to the next slide. So there are 3 types of variables in Java: local, instance, and static. We have to remember that there are 3 kinds of variables in Java: local, instance, and static. So what's a local variable? We have already said, we discussed basically something that is declared within a particular curly brace. That's a local variable, right? But there are 2 other variables, like one is instance, one is static. Let's start with static. Static variables, they belong to the class, not to the instances. As you know, every class can have multiple instances, right? But this particular variable static, if a variable is declared static, it belongs to the class only, and that particular variable is shared across all objects. So it belongs to the class. Instance variable, as you know, a class can have multiple instances. So declared inside a class, but it is declared outside of methods. Inside a class you have to declare it, but it has to be outside the method, outside the public static void main too. So it is accessible to all methods in that class, and its scope is entire object. It has a default value. Say if it is int declared as int, so it will have a value of 0, default value 0. How long it lasts? It lasts until the object is garbage collected. Particular object, particular instance is garbage collected, its value lasts there, right? It's a instance variable. And static variable, how long it lasts? It lasts until the program ends, has a default value of 0, right? So it lasts. Static variables, they last until the program ends. And local variables, as long as you are within the curly braces, it lasts. After the curly braces, it is gone, it's not visible, right? So these 3 are the various kinds of variables that are available here. Here if you see, this is a static variable, this is a instance variable, this is a local variable, and we are publishing all 3. Okay. So next one is, we have already discussed this. Local variables are declared inside a method. The scope is limited to that block, and outside the block it's not accessible, right? This is a local variable here, x is equal to 10. You are able to print it here because you are trying to access it within the curly braces. Outside the curly braces, this is not visible. Okay. Variable declared inside if block, for loop, while loop, any curly braces, right? So those are that's your block scope. So variable dies after the block ends. So like see here, this is a particular block, right? Curly braces start, curly braces end, and you have declared int is equal to 5. But is it applicable here? Is it visible here? It is not visible here. So you'll get a compiler error here because this particular variable was declared here inside, so it's not visible here. Similarly, for loop, you have declared variable I, and you have declared it here inti, so it is declared within this. So for loop scope is from here to here, right? So this is for loop scope. So is this value of inti visible outside this for loop? No, it is not. So it will lead to compiler error. So loop variable exists only inside the loop. Then you have to remember what is shadowing. Shadowing is when you have two variables with the same name. One is at the class level, one is at the inside the method. Say you have intx declared as an instance variable, and then you have a method, and within that you have redeclared intx. In that case, the one inside the method will be shadowing the one in the class level or instance, right? In instance variable. So Java doesn't give you an error, it just quietly picks the local one. So if your class has intx 10 and your method also declares intx is equal to 20, then inside, like here, you have a class test here, you have an instance variable intx 10, but within this value method you have redeclared intx here, right? So what will Java pick? It will pick this on this local variable. So because this local variable, it's a local variable, you see, it's not an instance variable, but it will be shadowing this value, so it will be variable, and so you will print 20 here. Okay, but say you want to print this value only. What you have to do, you have to do the print this dot x. This is that particular instance, right, of if you have a class x, and particular instance will be this, so that objects has a local this instance variable x. So to reach that, you have to write this dot x. We'll discuss that later fully. So local variables, they must be initialized before use. So if you are having three types of variables, right? You have static variable, and you have instance variable. Those two are by default initialized by the system. So for int variables, they are given default values of 0. For static as well as instance variables. So in this case, static int count or int score, both are given a value of 0, no issues. But here, if you see, so it prints 0, it prints the static value, it prints 0 here, the instance variable, it prints here, prints 0 here, but you have declared one value here, that is a local variable, and it is not initialized, means it has not been given any default value, right? No value has been given. You try to print it, use this particular, it will throw a compiler error, because it has to be given one value here, say 0, 1, 2, whatever you want. In that case, you will not face any compiler error. Okay, so what happens when you compile this code? This is question number 1, and what happens? So it is pretty easy. You see this inti is declared within this for loop, right? And you are trying to access it outside the for loop, so it will lead to compile error. So answer is C. Okay. Then second is, let us go through all the code fragments which will compile. That is the question. So we have 4 code fragments A, B, C, D, which will compile. Let's see this one. So this one is x is declared inside intx is declared here, but it goes out of scope, right? Once after this closing bracket here, curly braces, see this x is not visible, so you can redeclare it. It will work, no compilation error. Let's go here. So here intx is equal to 10. You have declared it outside, but it's not within a curly brace, right? It's outside. That means its scope is still here, full scope is there, but you are trying to redeclare it here again. So that will lead to compilation error, because it is already outside and full scope is from here to here, right? So in that case, if its scope is already in scope, you cannot redeclare another variable here. So this will lead to compilation error. Here intx, and here you are reassigning this variable another value. Initially it was declared as x is equal to 10, and you are putting it 20, but are you redeclaring it? You are not redeclaring it here, right? You are just assigning a new value. If it would have given a redeclared it as intx, it would have led to compilation error, but you have not done that. You have just put x is equal to 20, so x is given another value 20, so it will compile, no issues. Here you see there are 2 blocks, right? This intx, so after this closing braces here, it will not be known, right? It goes out of scope, so you can redeclare here again, so you don't face any problem here, right? So what values, so which ones are correct? A, C, and D. A, C, and D are, so this C is the answer. So let's go to question 3. So what is the output of this code? So we have to see, you have a static variable here, and then we have an instance variable intx here, and if true, intx equal to 20. Now problem is you are trying to redeclare x here again, right? X is already here, instance variable scope is full, this one you're trying to redeclare it here. So in that case, it will redeclaration is not possible. If it were like x is equal to 20, you would have worked, but you are doing int x is equal to 20, so it will fail. Compilation error will be the answer. Okay, so that's about variable scope here in this video. Let's meet in the next video. Thank you for your time.